Safe to start. Good morning. Well, thank you all for coming. I didn't think there would be this many people here, but it's very nice to know. I've written this very brief history of the organ in Protestant worship. Of course, you all know it's mentioned in Psalm 150. But when the Psalms were written, there were no organs like this, no organs with a lot of pipes. It probably was some kind of a primitive flute that's mentioned, but it was a wind-blown instrument at any rate. The organ sort of came into its own thanks to, well, first, plainsong, the Roman Catholic Church, but later in terms of Protestant worship because of Martin Luther, who wrote a number of hymns that we all know, Almighty Fortress is Our God among them. And the Lutheran worship service sort of morphed over into the Church of England, which has a very similar service. They embraced the hymns and the organ music very well, but you know, John Knox and John Calvin, they were sort of sourpusses. They thought worship was contaminated by anything other than an austere building with plain glass windows, no stained glass, no statues, and no musical instruments, no organs. And of course, the Reformed Church in Holland was Calvinistic. They had built some very large organs in the 16th and 17th centuries, organs that had pipes 32 foot long in the facade of the pipe. And so they took up a lot of space and they were very visible. But the Calvinists wanted not to see them. So they built huge doors, and these huge doors covered the organ, and the organ in Alkmaar, Holland still has these huge doors that cover over all the visible pipes. So you, out of sight, out of mind, I guess.
Did they play the organs when they were locked up like that?
No, I mean, no, the organs were not used in worship. The organs were used for entertainment, for the community. And, you know, if you don't have money for a symphony orchestra, you can build a big organ. And the organs were used for entertainment, very much so.
Did they open the doors?
Yes. Oh, yeah, the doors are on hinges. Yeah, they're opened. Well, anyway, gradually, particularly in the late 18th century, the Presbyterians decided that music was really not evil, and that it was helpful to be able to sing hymns and chorales. And so gradually the Presbyterians went into using organs very much as we use them now for hymns, certainly for hymns, but also for congregational singing. Now, this organ started out in 1910 as a Hutchings organ, but if you want to know the real history of the organs in this church, read Steve Tabor's wonderful book. I read the section on organs before preparing this, but then I was so attached to the book, I read the whole book over again. It's a wonderful book. Steve, thank you for that. Anyway, the organ was built in 1910, ran into some difficulties. The roof leaked, and there was damage to the pipes, and some plaster from the ceiling fell down into the pipes, and you can imagine when you have a lot of little pipes,
Spraying all over the roof.
they're not happy when plaster falls into it. At any rate, an attempt was made to rebuild the organ, maybe 50 years ago, but finally, we had to redo it, and we got Barbara Owen, who is an authority, or was an authority. She died last year. She's a wonderful person. She came out here from Massachusetts, went over the organ in detail, prepared a detailed report, and recommended that we rebuild it, but that we enlarge it. And it was interesting that those pipes that you see right there, which are the 16-foot viola pipe, in the rebuild 50 years ago, were detached. So they didn't sound. And there was also a big trumpet on the grate, which also was decommissioned and not used. And an organ absolutely needs a trumpet. You need reeds. But now let's get on to the discussion of what we have here. And this organ is not just one organ, it's actually 4 organs. And when we redesigned it, we added, to make sure that each manual, and there are 3 manuals, 3 keyboards called manuals, had a complete chorus. So the first chorus I'll demonstrate, and it is coming from this up above here, but you'll see you can play a whole church service just using this, because you can add a mixture and it gets bigger. And you can add reeds so it sounds. So, pretty good sound from just that's one division. That's called the swell division. And the thing about the swell division is it has shutters on it, which will make the sound softer. Here it is open. Make it louder or softer with the shutters. Now the next division is on this side, and it's called the great organ, and it's the organ with the loudest stops. But again, so that's the second one. The third division is way up at top here, and it's called the choir organ, but it also is a complete instrument. With a mixture. And that has reeds too. Okay, so much for the 3 divisions. The other division, of course, is the pedal, and it has its own stops. Not quite as brilliant. But that shows you what the pedal will do. Now, there are 4 classes of pipes, and there's a chart here which shows them. And we have examples of many of those pipes in this organ. Where's my chart here? Oh, the number 1. Well, first let me say something about how pipes were classified. Michael Pretorius, who you will know wrote "Lo, how a rose there blooming" and other hymns, but in 1619 wrote a volume entitled Syntagma Musicum, and in that he classified all organ pipes. And It, to date, is the best classification we have. But classification number 1, and look at the drawing, pipes which are cylindrical but fairly narrow. And those are the diapasons, the main stops of the organ. This is a diapason. We think of that principally as the organ top, tone. The next group of pipes are the flutes, and they also have parallel sides, as number 2 does, but it's wider. It's wider than the diapason or the strings. So a flute, and we have some wonderful flutes here. There's one in the swell division. And then we have it down here, the great. Well, that's so much for flutes. Now, what?
Are you going to show the pipes?
In a minute, yeah. 3, the gemshorn. Now, this is called a hybrid stop because it wants to be a flute. At the bottom, it's wide, and at the top, it's tapered, so it thinks it's a diapason or a string. And we have a gemshorn here. Up above, it sounds more like a flute. And down here, more like a string. All right, now, number 4. This is a diapason that has a top on it, a cap on it. And we have one of those here on the number 5 is a gedeckt, a bourden. And we have, let's see, a good word here up on the top. A chimney flute, that has a cap on it, but it also has a pipe going out the top that looks like a chimney. And we have a chimney flute here. It sounds a little different than a stop diapason, but it's part of the flute family. Then number 7. 7 is a reed. And it's, the trumpet is the classic. And the sackbut, of course. Sackbut, by the way, is a name for a trombone. They call them, but I visited York Minster a number of years ago, and it had a wonderful sackbut on it. So I thought, well, I think we'll call our organ a sackbut, but it goes like this. Now, that's the lowest pipe on the organ. That's the lowest pitch. It's 32 feet long, and the pipes of the sackbut actually are 32 feet long. The resonators are wood, and they go all the way up to the top, and then they fold out and go out this way. And if you shine a flashlight in that top section, you can see the ends of those pipes. They've been painted black so you can't see them, but if you look hard or with a flashlight, you can see them. But that's the longest pipe in the organ. We have another pipe, the sub-bass, which is stopped, and we'll show you a stopped pipe in a minute, but it also is a low pitch. Oh, it was that. This is the sub-bass. That is the lowest pipe in the sub-bass range. But you think, you know, that wouldn't make much difference. But if you're playing something like a hymn, but that burden is too big. Here it is without the 16. And then if you add that 16-foot, where is it? Yeah. You can see the difference it makes? You can hear it? So it adds a lot. We have an interesting stop, the crumb horn, number 8. The crumb horn is made after a French example, and we have a book that tells us how to make French reeds, written by a French priest, Dumbedos, and this is a copy of one of those. Let me show you how it might sound. French composition showing that. Then another thing that the organ has that is the cymbal star. And it is a set of bells that just goes round and round. I've got to tell you that when I came to play last week, I put it on, I thought, it isn't working. But then I realized that I can't hear it. They're high pitches above, but can you hear it? Yes. Okay, well, this is the kind of thing you might play with the cymbal stand. I'll just play a couple of lines of it. We need to have a little more. Oh, no. Is the cymbal stand on? Yes. Like that. So much for the cymbal shape. Now, I just want to show you a little bit about some actual pipes.
Before we do that, Dr. Becker,
Yeah.
can I just ask, for those of us who sing, I find vox humana very intriguing.
Oh.
What does that sound?
Okay, the vox humana is a reed, and it's a very short reed, and it's is on the pictures. It would be something like number 9. Number 9. In other words, it doesn't have a long resonator on it. It's quite short. But here's the vox. It's often played with a tremolo. Where is the tremolo? Oh, here. There it is. So it would sound like this. Yes, it has. It has a vibrato. All right, now this pipe is probably 200 years old, but it was given to me as they were rebuilding an organ in Germany, and this is a pipe that had been altered. It's had something added to it. So it has the flavor of an old pipe. It is an old pipe, but it is actually is a diapason, and you can. And if you cap it like this, it goes down almost an octave. Almost an octave. We can pass this around if anyone wants to look at it. Now this is a wooden gedeckt. Gedeckt is on here as number 5. But instead of having a cap, it has a plug at the top. And this will speak an octave lower when the plug is in. But it's a high pressure reed, so you have to blow it hard. I can't blow it harder than that. If you take the plug out, it goes up an octave. So it's not it's an Austrian pipe, actually. Austin is an organ builder. You can pass that around if you want to look at it. Now this is a reed, and it shows you, it's the only organ pipe that has moving parts. And it has a reed like a clarinet or a saxophone has a reed. The reed is a little tiny brass thing here on the end of the pipe, and you tune it by moving this tuning wire up or down, which changes the length of the reed that vibrates. But you can also pass this around if you want to take a look at it. That's a trumpet. That would be a trumpet sound. Now, I think I've covered most of what we had a very good example of what a fairly full organ sounds like in the Dumont fast movement that Larry played this morning. Larry, I must say, uses this organ very well. He is much to be praised for that. So you hear the resources of this organ every Sunday, really. And right now he plays much better than I do, so we can let him take care of that. But now, it's open for questions. Does anyone have any questions? Steve?
Yes, when the organ was rebuilt in 1999, there was an element that was left out, which was the addition of an antithetical division.
Yes.
The question is, would that be a good thing to plan for in our maintenance of the organ?
Well, obviously, yeah, I think yes. It isn't a very large organ. It would be a fourth organ, and it would be in the gallery, and it would allow antiphonal music, or it would also allow having the choir up there for some occasions and playing. It could be played from this console, and it would have its own keyboard up there as well. And it would have, I think, 5 stops. It's small.
You have any idea how much it would cost?
Nowadays, I guess it would depend on the builder. I think probably it would be around $20,000 a stop, so maybe $100,000, something like that. Yeah, but and it would have a big trumpet in it, so that you could play with the trumpet back there, the trumpet up here. It would be, it would give us a lot of exciting possibilities. Yeah. Any other? Yes.
How does the air stand from that when you're playing all the way over here?
Oh, right. I said there are 3 organs here, the swell, the great, and the choir. And they each sit on a wind chest. And a wind chest has a hole drilled in it for each pipe. And when you pull out a stop, you engage the hole in the wind chest with a hole in the stop, so that stop will sound. If you put in the stop, it shuts it off. And that's called a slider wind chest.
How long did we have organs? Like, when was the first organ, like you talked about? And was it invented in Germany?
Well, the organs of this sort go back to the 17th century, and of course there was no electricity, and so you couldn't have a console separated from the instrument. The console would be here, and the pipes would be right here, right in front, and so it's mechanical. When you press down the key, you open a valve under the pipe. It's very direct. And now there are organs that are built that way. We wondered if this could be done, but it would have been a mess because you've got both sides and it's hard to range trackers. It could be done, but it would have not been a good result. So Barbara Owen thought, no, we don't want to do that. But the one in the back would be a tracker. That's called tracker action when it's all mechanical and you don't have to have electricity. And I have to mention the organ at St. Mark's, which is all mechanical. It's not electrical. And if the electricity went off, the blowers, the bellows can be pumped by hand, so you don't need electricity to play the organ. And it's a wonderful instrument built in the North German style. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a very elementary basic question. You may have already said, what is the metal of which these pipes are made? Is it lead?
Oh, that's a dirty question. Yeah, it is, lead. This is probably almost pure lead. So wash your hands when you get home, if you handle it. I don't think anyone's going to die from lead poisoning, but lead poisoning was common among organ builders, actually. But other organs use pipes which are made of zinc, and sometimes copper. Yeah. So.
Are the sounds quite different among the different metals?
Is what?
The sound, is it different?
Yes, it is. Most purists say that nothing sounds as good as a lead principle. And it's a wonderful, gentle sound. It's a very gentle and pleasant sound. It wears well, works on the ears. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming.
Before you go, if you want to see inside the organ area, it's up here and to the right. I opened up the door. You can take a peek in to look where the organ chamber is.
Yes.
You have to go up these stairs, or you can take the elevator up
Yeah.
Can you send us on our way by playing something?
By playing something. Oh, my word. Well, I didn't bring much of anything to play. I'll play a hymn. How do you like that? All right, we'll play a hymn. And let's see.
You have to be really coordinated to do an organ. I mean, feet, hands.
Yeah, you do. Right. But let's see if this works out.